بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وينزل عليكم من السماء ماء ليطهركم به ويذهب عنكم رجز الشيطان وليربط على قلوبكم ويثبت به الأقدام.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة لأهل التقوى واليقين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين العبد المؤيد الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أما بعد، قال أمير المؤمنين علي عليه الصلاة والسلام: يا ابن آدم أنفاسك خطاك إلى أجلك. Dear brothers and sisters, in this session we will elaborate on the rules of touching a dead body. When you touch a dead body, ghusl becomes obligatory on you. There are certain conditions, certain rules, and certain occasions in which ghusl becomes obligatory for a person who touches a dead body. Now the question is, when does the ghusl for touching a dead body become obligatory? It becomes obligatory when a dead body turns cold. Of course, as long as a person is alive or when he is dying, his body is still warm. But as the person dies, the body slowly loses its warmth and its temperature, and it starts becoming cold. When the body has entirely become cold and the person touches it, then it would become necessary for the person who touches the dead body to perform ghusl because of touching the dead body. And if some part of a dead body has become cold and other parts are still warm, and a person touches a dead body, then in this case, ghusl will not become obligatory on the person who touches it. It's necessary that the entire body should become cold, should lose its temperature, its warmth. And of course, it does not make any difference whether a person touches the dead body voluntarily or involuntarily, when he is awake or when he is asleep. And it does not make any difference whether the person is sane or insane, or whether the person is minor or an elderly person. Ghusl becomes obligatory, but of course, an insane person is not under the obligation to perform ghusl as long as he is an insane person. A junior child, a minor child, is not under the obligation to perform ghusl as long as he is a minor child. I will explain the rules later. So it's necessary that the entire body should be cold, and then it does not make any difference whether you touch the dead body intentionally or unintentionally, voluntarily or involuntarily, or forgetfully. And it does not also make any difference whether you touch the dead body's skin or the dead body's nails. If your nail comes in contact with the nail of the dead body, and if your finger comes in contact with the finger of the dead body, then of course it is necessary for you to perform ghusl. In either case, if, for example, you are sleeping and someone makes the dead body come in your contact and in contact with your body, with your nails, you are asleep. But then you later on learn that the dead body has come in contact with your body, then it's necessary for you to perform ghusl. Now what if your hair comes in contact with the body or with the dead body, or the dead body's hair come in contact with your body, with your hand, with your nails? In this case, the ground scholars, the religious authorities have said that ghusl does not become obligatory. Your hair comes in contact with the body or with a part of the body of a dead body, then it's not necessary for you to perform ghusl. Ghusl does not become obligatory in this case. Now there are different circumstances, different occasions when, for example, a woman's body comes in contact with a dead body. For example, a woman gives birth to a dead child, or he gives birth to a fetus, to a dead fetus that has completed or has reached the 4th month. As you know very well, that a fetus, an embryo, comes to life and gains soul at the 4th month, of its age. The child in a mother's womb comes to life and gets soul at the 4th month of pregnancy, at the 4th month of conception. If the fetus dies after the 4th month, the mother and its body becomes cold. It's necessary to take notice of this condition. Its body becomes cold. Then, of course, it's necessary for the mother to perform ghusl. Even if she has not touched the dead child, and she has just given birth to that child, but since the fetus has lost its warmth and its temperature in her womb, then it will become necessary for the mother to perform ghusl. Now there's another supposition. The mother dies, and the child and its body and the mother's body becomes cold, turns cold. It loses its temperature, its warmth, and the mother and the child is taken out of her womb by a doctor or by someone else. The child is alive, but it does come in contact with the mother's body, because the child is in its mother's womb, but the mother has died. Does ghusl become obligatory on the child or not? Is the child supposed to perform ghusl for touching a dead body or not? The ground religious authorities have said that ghusl becomes obligatory. Ghusl becomes obligatory on the child, but it will not be necessary for the child to perform ghusl at a minor age, at a young age. Of course, when the child becomes adult, and when the child attains the age of puberty, the age of adulthood, then it would be obligatory for the child to perform ghusl. Ghusl for touching a dead body, or ghusl for touching its own mother's cold dead body. The same is true with a person who has lost his sanity, with an insane person or with a drunk person. Though the insane person or the person who is drunk does not know and is not mindful of the dead body, and he does not remember this, but if someone tells him that you touched a dead body when you were young, when you were insane, or you touched a dead body when you were drunk, then if he is reminded of this, it will become obligatory on the insane person who has now become sane, of course, and the drunk person who has come out of drunkenness and who is no longer drunk, to perform ghusl for touching a dead. Now, again, there is another question. If a person touches a bone that has no flesh, a fleshless bone thrown away on the ground, if a person picks it up, it belongs to a human body, not to an animal, of course. I should tell you that it's not obligatory for you to perform ghusl for touching a dead body. If you touch a dead animal, it does not make any difference whether the animal, yes, is a halal animal or a haram animal. Touching an animal, a dead animal, does not make ghusl obligatory for you. And it does not make any difference what the type or what the name of that animal is. An animal, touching an animal does not make ghusl obligatory. But if you touch a human bone, will ghusl become obligatory on you or not? Obviously, ghusl does not become obligatory when you touch a dead body. When you touch a bone that belongs to a human being. And similarly, now there is another supposition. If someone's limb, or let's say a hand, is chopped off, it's thrown away, but the person who to whom the hand belongs or the person to whom the limb belongs is alive, and someone picks up his hand, for example, he is walking with some machinery within a factory, and all of a sudden he loses his limb, someone picks up the hand, or someone finds a chopped off limb belonging to a human being, does ghusl become obligatory by mere touching a limb, a human hand, a human leg, or a human finger, supposing that the owner of the hand or the person to whom the hand belongs is still alive? According to religious authorities, ghusl does not become obligatory in this supposition. It will not become obligatory for you to perform ghusl for touching a severed, a chopped off limb. Ghusl for touching a dead body is not sufficient for wudu. When you touch a dead body and you perform ghusl after that, it is necessary for you, according to some scholars, as a recommended precaution, it is necessary that you perform wudu also. But many other scholars have said that it's obligatory for you to perform wudu. Ghusl for touching a dead body is not sufficient for wudu. And of course, as a measure of precaution, according to some scholars, you have to perform wudu to be ready for prayer. What is the difference between janaba and touching for a dead body? Because it's said that when you touch a dead body, you become impure, and you have to perform ghusl in order to achieve purity, to be in the state of ritual purity. Is there any difference between this impurity which is gained as a result of touching a dead body and the purity, the impurity which is gained or which a person goes through after entering the state of janaba? Of course, there is a difference between this impurity and that impurity, this uncleanness and that uncleanness. When it is obligatory for you to perform ghusl for touching a dead body, and of course when you have touched a dead body, you are allowed to do certain things. For example, you can enter a mosque, you can halt a mosque, you can pick up something from a mosque, you can recite the Quranic verses, and you can recite even those verses which contain obligatory sajda. This is the difference. But when you are in the state of janaba, of course, you cannot enter a mosque, you cannot halt, you cannot pause, you cannot pick up anything from the mosque, and of course, you cannot recite those verses or those surahs which contain obligatory sajda. This is the difference. And of course, when it comes to the method of performing ghusl, the method is the same. There is no difference in the method of ghusl. Ghusl is the same. The procedure is the same. You wash your head and neck, first of all, with the intention of complying God's order, with the intention of seeking nearness to God, and with the intention of qurbat. You wash your head and neck with this intention, and then you wash the right side of your body and then the left side of your body. If you are going to perform a sequential ghusl, a tartibi ghusl, but if you are going to perform an irtimasi ghusl or a ghusl which is done by submerging your whole body under water, then again the procedure is the same. You have to submerge. If you are going to do it one by one, you have to submerge your head and neck first of all, and then according to some scholars, the right side of your body, and then the left side of your body. But some scholars have said that when you have washed your head and neck, then the rest of your body can be washed all at once. And it's not necessary to begin washing your body, beginning with the right side and finishing with the left side. This sequence is not necessary according to many scholars. Now, death has certain rules. Death is, of course, inevitable when a person dies. And when a person is dying, of course, there are some obligations, there are some rules that need to be followed, that need to be adhered to, that need to be understood first of all, and then practiced. مولاي يا مولاي مولاي يا مولاي مولاي يا مولاي مولاي يا مولاي. When a person is dying, the grand scholars and the ahadith, because the grand scholars derive the Islamic laws from the ahadith, from the holy book, from the Quran, and based on the traditions which have been transmitted from the holy Imams and from the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. When someone is dying, it is necessary to do certain things. It does not make any difference whether the person dying is a man or a woman, an old person or a young, a child or an elderly person. As a measure of precaution, he should be laid on his or on her back, if possible, of course, in such a manner that the soles of his or her feet are in the direction of Qibla. The dying person should be laid on his back, and the soles of his feet or her feet should face the direction of Qibla. Of course, this is not a fatwa, but this is a precaution. According to some scholars, they have said that as a measure of precaution, this has to be done. And of course, you know very well that as long as you are following a mujtahid, you should also follow whatever precautions he has announced. As long as you are not referring to another mujtahid, it is necessary, it's obligatory for you to act according to the precaution, to act according to whatever he has said or he says in his lifetime. Of course, as long as the dying person has not died, he should be kept in this position. And insofar as the dead body has not been given ghusl, has not been, of course, washed and according to the procedures and rules prescribed, then this rule is applicable, this has to be followed. When a dead person has not been washed and ghusl has not been given to it, then it's necessary to put him with his back on the ground, and the soles of his feet should face the Qibla. But this rule is not applicable when the dead body has been given ghusl. the funeral ghusl, the ghusl janaza. When the corpse has been washed, then it is permissible to keep the body in whatever position that the dead body is kept. Of course, when the bath has been given, then the funeral prayer has to be offered on the dead body. The dead body is put with his back on the ground, and then his souls in such a way that his right side is towards the Qibla. Then of course the prayer will be offered on it, on the dead body, and then he will be carried to the graveyard, to the grave, and the position does not make any difference because the ghusl has been given. He or she can be put in any position, in any direction, and certainly it's better, of course, that the dead body should be kept in such a way that he is or she is put in the grave, inside the grave. You know that the face of the dead body is made to be in the direction of Qibla. Or when, of course, when he is in the coffin, then his right side is towards the Qibla. And of course, it's also allowed, it's also permissible to put the dead body in such a way that the souls of the dead body, the souls of his or her feet, are in the direction of Qibla. Dear brothers and sisters, when a person is dying, it is better, it's recommended that the dying person should be carried to a room or to that place where he or she used to offer his or her prayers. It is recommended. It's not obligatory. And of course, it is also recommended to offer certain ayats, certain surahs when he or she is dying. You might ask, what are those surahs, what are those ayats that can be recited to a dying person or close to a dying person? Because a dying person, of course, cannot recite the surahs and the ayats, the verses himself. We will recite those verses by his side. These scholars, the grand religious scholars, have said that it is mustahab to recite by his side, of course, Surah Yasin, Surah Safat, and Surah Ahzab, and Ayatul Kursi. And also the verse 54th verse of Surah Al-A'raf. These are the verses and the surahs that can be recited. And of course, the last 3 verses of chapter Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Baqarah, is also recommended to be recited beside or by the side of a dead person. It's always recommended not to leave a dead body alone, a dying person alone. It's always recommended that one should be there, or of course as many people as possible. There should be someone, relatives preferably, the relatives should be there by his side, so that he or she does not feel afraid, does not get scared. When there are relatives, when there are friends beside a dying person, the dying person dies a comfortable death, or maybe you can say an easy death. But if there is no one, he will pass away with a mind, with a heart full of sadness, full of sorrow, and full of grief. Of course, if it is possible, one should not leave a dying person alone, and one should help the dying person recite the Shahadatain, recite the 2 testimonies, and one should help him recite his kalima. Of course, if a dying person is in his senses and he can recite, one should help him recite. One should help him die a comfortable death, an easy death. Inshallah, in the next session to come, I will elaborate on the rules of death. I will further explain the rules. Inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا يا ربنا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا يا ربنا يا ربنا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا يا ربنا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا